Welcome to Mill History Talk, the podcast where we explore the past to better understand the profession of arms today. We dive into the campaigns, conflicts, issues, and commanders that have shaped military thinking across centuries, and why it all still matters. Whether you're an officer in training, a seasoned professional, a student of strategy, or simply curious about how history informs modern warfare, this space is for you. Our mission is simple: to foster insight, reflection, and critical thinking primarily through the lens of military history. Before we begin, a quick note. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the podcast writers, hosts, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any government agency or organization. So, whether you're listening in a barracks, a lecture hall, at the gym, or in your car on the way to work, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Mill History Talk, where we decode the big campaigns, untangle the thick books, and casually throw around phrases like interior lines of communication, like it's small talk at a cocktail party. I'm Hope, and I'm your host for this week's episode. Today we're cracking open a book that's been sitting on the shelves of generals, grad students, and military nerds for over 50 years, David G. Chandler's The Campaigns of Napoleon. And look, I'll be real with you up front. This book is big. Not long weekend read big. Not rainy Sunday afternoon big. No, this is I need a second desk just to hold it big. But if you've ever wanted to understand how Napoleon fought, not just the myth but the method, this is the place to start. Published in 1966, The Campaigns of Napoleon is still the gold standard for operational history on the Napoleonic Wars. Chandler doesn't waste time with palace gossip or metaphysical musing. He wants you to understand how the battles were fought, why they mattered, and what made Napoleon such a revolutionary military mind, until, of course, he wasn't anymore. And the guy knew what he was doing. Chandler was a British historian and taught at Sandhurst, the UK's version of West Point. He poured years into this book, combing through dispatches, orders of battle, maps, and contemporary memoirs. The result? A narrative that's rich, detailed, and, believe it or not, actually pretty fun to read. No, really. His prose is clear, almost chatty at times, and he has this great habit of pulling you into the decision-making process. You're not just reading about the Battle of Austerlitz. You're there, perched on a hill with Napoleon, watching the fog roll off the valley and trying to decide when to commit your reserves. It's that immersive. The book follows Napoleon's military career chronologically, from the early Italian campaigns to the disaster in Russia, to his brief comeback in the 100 Days, and the final mic-drop moment at Waterloo. Chandler walks us through it all, highlighting both Napoleon's genius and his later missteps. He's not here to worship the emperor. He calls it like he sees it. And what's really great? Chandler takes the time to explain why these campaigns mattered. You'll get context about the diplomatic stakes, the logistical nightmares, and the challenges of keeping a multinational force from turning into a mess of boots and bayonets. He also shows how Napoleon innovated, decentralizing command, using speed and deception, and turning the core system into something that modern armies still study. That said, this book has a very specific focus: operations and strategy. If you're hoping for a deep dive into the social or political consequences of the Napoleonic Wars, or what life was like for the average drummer boy, you might find Chandler a little too focused on maps and maneuvers, but honestly, that's the point. This is military history, not social history. Now let's talk best and worst features. Best, the depth. There's simply no other book that walks you through Napoleon's campaigns with this level of detail while still being readable. You'll come away feeling like you could run your own tabletop simulation of Wagram before lunch. Worst? Well, the sheer length can be intimidating. If you're new to Napoleonic history, this might not be the best entry point, but if you're game, and maybe stocked up on coffee, it's one of the most rewarding reads in military nonfiction. Okay, so the Campaigns of Napoleon is the heavyweight champ. But what if you want to see the bigger picture, or maybe zoom in on different angles? Here are 3 more amazing reads that pair beautifully with Chandler's work, and might even give you that missing context. First, The Napoleonic Wars, A Global History, by Alexander Mikaberidze. This one's a game changer. Mikaberidze zooms way out and shows how the Napoleonic Wars reshaped the world, literally. From Haiti to the Indian Ocean to Latin America, you'll learn that Napoleon's shadow stretched far beyond Europe. It won both the Gilder Lehrman and Society for Military History awards because it deserves them. Another great one is Swords Around a Throne by John R. Elting. If Chandler is the campaign brain, Elting is the heart and soul of the Grande Armée. This book is less about strategy and more about the men, their slang, their uniforms, their pride and suffering. It's colorful, sometimes cranky, and totally unique. Finally, there is also The First Total War by David A. Bell. Bell dives into the philosophy and evolution of modern warfare, arguing that Napoleon's campaigns helped create what we now call total war. It's the kind of book that makes you pause every few pages and go, that explains a lot. So, would I recommend Chandler's The Campaigns of Napoleon? Absolutely. It's not just a good book, it's a military history rite of passage. Whether you're a junior officer, an armchair general, or just someone who really likes maps, this is one of those cornerstone books that sticks with you. Just maybe don't try reading it in bed. You might sprain something. And that wraps up this week's march through the pages of the Campaigns of Napoleon. I'm Hope, your trusty narrator, amateur strategist, and fully certified map nerd. And I'll be back next time with more stories of war, strategy, and probably some questionable uniform choices. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and maybe recommend us to that one friend who thinks interior lines means home decor. Until next time, keep reading, keep plotting. Just the historical kind, please. And remember, war is hell, but reading about it, surprisingly cozy. Thanks for listening to Mill History Talk, where passion is fleeting, but double envelopment is forever.